Public Safety and Transportation. Were we recording already, or did it just start?
Yeah, I just hit the record button. Yeah,
All right,
had a
let's
difficulty
start
at
it
first.
again. No worries. All right, this is Manhattan Community Board 11, Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting. It is May 11th. It is 6:35. We have quorum. We will begin tonight's agenda. We have a short and sweet agenda for tonight, which is rare for our committee, but luckily we will move forward. All right, ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participant panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulties, you may click on the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of technical difficulties you're having or to state in writing information like email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment above the subject of the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. Call to order. We will call by omission. And Khalid, let us do our roll call.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, members, as a reminder, there are 11 total committee members. 6 are needed in order to make quorum. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch.
Kenneth is excused.
Understood. Carlos Diaz.
Present.
Thank you. I think Judith called in earlier today to say that she would be late. Osendi Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Wanda Hopkins.
Present.
Thank you. Marissa Mack. Sage Mason.
Present.
Thank you. Roberto Perez. Don Sanders. Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
Thank you. 6 present. We have quorum, Chair.
Thank you. Let's move forward then. We will go to informational updates. And I do not see the 2-3 or the 2-5 here. Is anyone present here for the 2-3 or the 2-5?
Jose, so we just got some emails from Officer Powers and Officer Oliver or Officer Matos. They said that they are all hands on deck regarding certain protests and rallies in different parts of the district, so they wouldn't be able to attend tonight's meeting.
All right, sounds good. Let's move forward from there. We had the DA I saw in the chat, Courtney Bennett. Is she still here? District Attorney, County Harlem Office Director. Is she our new liaison for the DA? I see a hand raised.
Yeah, that's Courtney Bennett. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Oh, great. This is Courtney Bennett. I am Harlem Office Director. Good evening, everyone. Marco Perez, who's previously attending these meetings, has moved on to the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And we are currently looking for a new East Harlem Community Engagement Coordinator. So if there's anyone interested or anyone who is interested, please feel free to share my email, which I've already put in the chat, bennettc@danny.nyc.gov. So it's a pleasure to be out with you this evening. I do want to report that the District Attorney's Office recently released an RFP for gun violence prevention, and we're looking for 10 organizations who will receive $20,000 grants to provide programming this summer and into the early fall to help prevent gun violence around the city and including Community Board 11. So wanted to let you know that. We also have a program which you might have heard of, the Navigators program, which is Danny putting people on the street to help with residents of New York City and Harlem and East Harlem who are exhibiting mental health issues, to try to connect them to services. So we've already received our proposals for that RFP. We vetted those proposals and we'll be making announcements about providers within the next couple of weeks. Other than that, I will take any questions if that's allowed. And I'm happy to be a part of the team. But again, if you know of anyone who's interested and capable of providing information to East Harlem through the DA's office, as Marco Perez did, please let me know.
Well, thank you for being here with us tonight. We appreciate it. Marco was priceless. We're happy that he is moving forward, and we thank you for allowing us the opportunity to forward different individuals to you that may have the same capacity. We do have two questions. We have Sage and then Michelle.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Courtney. Do we have a like a job posting or something that we can send around with a description of the East Harlem Community Coordinator role that I can send to people?
That is being prepared, but there is one for our Central Harlem site already online. The East Harlem should be up next week. If you send me an email saying that you have someone interested, I'll make sure that you get that as soon as it's up. And you can also just have someone call, or I can contact someone who may be interested as they wait for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sage. Michelle?
Hi, Courtney. Thank you for coming and giving that information out. That is really appreciating. I wanted to find out about the 20 Ks that you said that there were 5 available. Is that for all of New York City, or is for the 5 boroughs, or is that are there more? And in other words, is it 5 for East Harlem, 5 for, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
For the gun violence prevention grants,
Right.
there are 10, and they will be going to agencies based on who bids, but they're covering all of Manhattan.
All of Manhattan. That's what I wanted to make sure.
There are some, when you go to the RFP, if I can get to the link, I'll put it in the chat. When you go to the
really
RFP, you'll see
that.
the precincts that are included: the 2-3, the 2-5, 2-8, 3-2, Lower East Side, Washington Heights. So it's not everywhere in Manhattan. There are certain targeted communities where we're experiencing upticks in gun violence.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Appreciate that. And are there any more gun buybacks do you know of that are going to be held rather quickly due to all the gun violence that's been happening?
I'm so glad you asked that. We just put the finishing touches on, actually I have 2 more announcements. We just put the finishing touches on a gun violence program that a gun buyback that we're going to have on June 10th at Memorial Baptist Church on 115th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. So that information will be going out. I'll make sure that it gets to the community board.
Thank you.
And finally, and thank you for that, I'll pay you later. And finally, we have an Art of Healing program on June 17th that will be at PS 7. So everyone's invited to come out for a day of fun and healing from the trauma of gun violence that has happened in East Harlem, as well as the broader Upper Manhattan community.
Thank you. Could you put those links to those events within the chat and also send it to Khalid later?
The links that I have, I will send. If I don't have links, I'll send those tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I will be leaving early because I have a meeting with PSA 6 on the west side at 7 o'clock.
Thank you for being here, Courtney. We appreciate your help, appreciate your insight, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move forward then. We're going to finish up with our information updates. Do we have any announcements? No? Okay. Then we'll do announcements at the end as well. We'll move forward to our presentations and discussions. Tonight, we have a presentation on the 128th Street and 3rd Avenue pedestrian bridge capital project. This is a project that has been years in the making that we've seen here in this community board. And now that we are getting closer and closer, we're happy that DOT is here. We thank Rafael for his hard work and keep us informed. And we also have Daniel Wagner with us. We appreciate you being here as well and look forward to presentation. It's all yours.
Okay. Thank you, Jose. Can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. No, I just wanted to introduce the team from DOT led by Dan. But before that, I just like to give you an update on the 117th Street and Pleasant Avenue. On what we are doing, we are trying to select, like I said in the past, the appropriate elements for that particular area. So Dan, are you on the call?
I am
Dan?
here, yes. Yes, I am
Oh,
here.
excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to let you continue with the presentation.
Great, thank you very much. Also, we have here is Fahad Mir for some, if there are any complicated questions that are beyond my scope. Just want to introduce him before he answers any questions if needed. I'm going to share my screen. I assume I can do that. Looks like it. So I'm here to talk to you about 3rd Avenue and 128th Street, as Jose said. This is a location that I hope you're all familiar with. And just to give you some quick background, just so you know that we're all talking about the same thing. We are located at the edge of the 3rd Avenue Bridge off-ramp. And as you know, I hope you know that there is a park to the northeast of the intersection of 128th and 3rd. There are also a handful of schools, PS 30, Hernandez Hughes, PS 138, Success Academy, Harlem, Kings Academy. So the DOT, as we were scoping this proposal and trying to figure out what the actual proposal would be, we did meet with those schools and in late 2019 to just hear how they use the intersection, how they use the bridge, how they use the park, how they operate. So we did do some preliminary outreach with them, and I just want to make that clear. We also have a bus that comes down across the bridge, runs east on 128th Street, then turns right on 2nd Avenue, and then turns right again on 125th Street. And we also have an eastbound bike lane, bike route. It's what we call a Class 2 bike lane that goes east on 128th Street. And as we'll get into that, but it is on the north side. It's not on the curb, but it's on the north side of 128th Street, west of 3rd Avenue, and it switches to the south side, east of 3rd Avenue. I want to talk about the bridge, though. So at the intersection, we actually have, well, before I talk about the bridge, we do have a challenging merge where 128th merges into the off-ramp traffic. And when you have that condition, you get some sort of lack of clarity from the traffic, whose turn it is, do I go, do you go? And when that happens, we tend to find that there are crashes and collisions. They increase anytime we have some unclear markings or unclear conditions. But about the bridge, in 2015, the DOT was realizing the poor condition of the bridge, and so we installed a remediation treatment to the concrete barriers that you see on the ground there. They're in the picture on the top right, and those were designed to slow down traffic, to make sure that traffic wasn't crashing into the bridge in any way. And since then, our bridge strikes have actually decreased. So it is an effective treatment, but it's also not a long-term treatment and not something that we want to keep. And when vehicles do hit this bridge, the bottom right photo is actually a vehicle hit the bridge, hit the support column. And so we had to quickly run in and throw up some wood to hold up the bridge so it didn't fall down. We've done cost benefit analyses throughout the city, citywide. And we found that when we can do a street redesign rather than a replacement of the bridge, is much more cost effective. There's less maintenance, it's cheaper, it's more effective for the users. And that's what I'm going to get into. This bridge is a pedestrian bridge, and when you have a pedestrian bridge, sorry, the bridge at 128th and 3rd, this one that you see on the screen is actually at 46th Street and 12th Avenue at the Intrepid Museum. And what you see is when you have a bridge that parallels an actual on-street crossing, look at how many pedestrians are using the bridge versus how many pedestrians are using the street. I think that is very clear what tends to happen. The pedestrians prefer not to change elevations. They prefer not to go up, even though it's safer, technically. It's not in their interest, and they're not, flat and smooth is their preferred. And an example in your district, or I'm sorry, in a different district, in CB12 in Inwood, there is at PS5, there is a pedestrian bridge that exists, and there is a crosswalk that also exists. And we actually took data of the users. You can see that on the screen here. The columns on the right, the blue and the orange, are pedestrians using the crosswalk. The columns to the left are pedestrians, adults or students, using the bridge. And you can just see the difference in who's using it. So this is a statistical evidence of what I was just saying on the previous screen. But it's basically saying that when you have the option, pedestrians stay at the level they're already at. The purpose of a bridge, if you think about it from like trying to cross a river and you can't cross the river, so you have to go miles and miles and miles out of your way. The purpose of a bridge is to shorten the crossing. This bridge, the one at 128th and 3rd, to use it actually lengthens your distance that you're trying to cross. If you're standing on the southwest corner of 128th and 3rd and you want to cross to the north side, instead of crossing 53 feet highlighted in blue, you would have to actually walk backwards 174 feet before you got across, and then you'd still have to walk either 96 feet to the right or 246 feet to the left. So this bridge, is counterintuitive to the sort of the purpose of a bridge. Additionally, the bridge itself is not even ADA compliant. It was built long before we had ADA. So that's another challenging issue for it. But you can see on the picture on the left, these are pedestrians just crossing the street, right? They're crossing the street, they're not using the bridge. We also have some safety statistics. And the fact that there is data, if it's not all zeros like I would have hoped, is evidence that people are crossing at street level rather than using the bridge. So I know that y'all weren't here to listen to me talk about the existing conditions. You want to know what the proposal is. So on the left is the existing conditions. That is for reference. On the right is the proposal. And that is the whole graphic. I will go into all the details. But just so you can compare and contrast, I'll leave it on the screen for a half sec. So the first thing we're proposing to do is to remove the bridge. The bridge is at the end of its lifespan, so it's time for it to be removed. We're going to relocate all of the modes of traffic to the street level, like it's a normal, regular street intersection. You can see the pedestrians in the lower graphic crossing at street level rather than on the bridge. We are proposing to signalize the intersection so that way traffic can be more orderly and controlled. To do this location is going to require 2 signals. It's one signal cycle with 2 different locations. So it's going to be all tied together. but it is, I'm showing two little graphical signal icons there. Once we do that, we can build a series of concrete curb extensions. On the right is the plan, on the left is a attempted rendering. But what it's going to allow us to do is it allows for more pedestrian space, shortened crossings, all those kinds of things that I hope that you are familiar with as the Transportation Committee. Those shortened crossings are reduced from what was previously 64 feet across is now 18 feet across. That's a big win across 3rd Avenue. Similarly, 64 feet previously at 127th Street would be reduced to 37 feet. We're also adding new crosswalks. Those are the ones represented in orange. That's how you would get across rather than using the bridge. This is what people do today. So we're proposing it's 41 feet on the right and 27 feet on the left. I can tell you that when you, as a pedestrian, trying to cross 2 lanes of traffic, that is only going in 2 lanes in one direction. It's with a signal that stops all that traffic. It's fairly easy. It's not really big challenging. There's some other examples of locations. Riverside and 95th Street is my favorite. Like across there, it's very easy to do. Also, we are going to be doing a number of bicycle improvements at this location. These bicycle improvements are the first steps towards a larger network change that is not really a part of this project, but we know what's coming, so we're able to incorporate the necessary elements into this project. As this is a capital project, this will take a few years, so those network changes would be a few years out, but they would come in concurrence with this project or shortly thereafter. But these, let me go through them. A 2-way protected off-street bike lane on 3rd Avenue, just from 127th to 128th, because that's the scope of the project that we're talking about today. That is a proposed off-street 2-way bicycle lane. Basically, as a bicyclist, no conflicts with vehicles at all until you get to an intersection. The 128th Street existing bicycle facility west of 3rd Avenue is on the north side. Part of those future proposals is to bring the bicycle facility that's east of 3rd Avenue from the south side of 120th Street to the north side, so it's consistent for a bicyclist. You're not kind of switching sides of the street. That's kind of difficult and causes issues. So we're proposing to keep it on the north side, and as part of this project, we would incorporate some green paint on the north side, crossing across the off ramp, and then I spent a lot of time trying to negotiate designs so that way the bicyclist who's continuing on East 128th Street would go behind a pedestrian who's waiting to cross the street on the south side. So those are at the top right is a graphic of what we call a small bicycle stamp. That's just to indicate this is legal for bicyclists to use the sidewalk in this space, because otherwise bicyclists are not supposed to be on the sidewalk in New York City, unless they're in like a bicycle lane or like a facility like you see between 127th and 128th. So additionally, a bicyclist who's going east on 128th Street, west of the project, and wants to turn right to go down 3rd Avenue, will also be able to do that on the south part of the intersection. So I think you can see my cursor right over here. So that's the bicycle improvements. And then finally, we are proposing to improve parking by, we heard from the schools that they would really like some more parking. And we have the extra space in this project. So we're adding a net of 15 parking spaces to move some stuff around. We lose some, but then we add more, and it comes out to a net of 15 additional parking spaces, mostly in the 3rd Avenue angled parking. It'll be back in angled parking that will be between 127th and 128th Streets. So overall, the plan is to remove the bridge, obviously. That's what I started with. Signalize the intersection. It increases ease of use by locating all modes at street level. I think New York City operates a little smoother and better when we do that. Safer, shorter pedestrian crossings. Everything will be up to ADA compliance when we're done. It'll reduce speeding. It'll calm traffic. It's kind of congested during the AM rush hour, but then like overnight or something like that, you got cars flying off that bridge. So all of this together should do some street calming. And then, you know, it includes safe, convenient cycling routes for bicyclists. So what is this project? So this is a capital project. This is not something that DOT is going to do in-house. So here's a timeline. We started the design quite a while ago. Today is, you know, May 2023, and we expect to finish the design within 2 years, and then construction would start a year later and then be completed hopefully 2 years after that. So we're a few years out from this being done, but it is being utilized as city funding, and there's a project ID if you need it. And that is the proposal. I am happy to take questions. I will lean on the board to navigate, host the questions, I guess.
Thank you. Good. All right, Charlie, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about shouldering the streets and everything. What's happening with the sanitation truck? You have not mentioned anything about the sanitation truck, and they're right in that block, and they use those highways to bring their vehicles.
Yeah, they can navigate everything. There should be no issues with the sanitation trucks can come off the ramp. They can come down East 128th Street. They can navigate through the intersection without a problem. All of the geometries of the curb extensions were designed with the street sweeper in mind, so they can clean. The snow removal shouldn't be a problem. I'm not sure what your concerns are, but
Yeah, the concern is coming off the bridge with the trucks, because some of them do come to 128th Street, and then some comes through the bridge. So you're accommodating 128th Street, but you're not mentioning that those trucks do come on the highway to go into 128.
They come off the off ramp from
That's
Third Avenue.
correct.
Yeah. So when they come around, the design of the project is to make it easier for them to navigate through the space, but it will not encourage them to speed or go too fast, anything like that. So there should be no issues. That's what I'm trying to say. It should work out.
All right. Thank you.
Michelle?
Hi, yes, thank you for your presentation. I have a question about in the proposed plan, I see the increased area for the pedestrians to stand. Does that mean that everything is going to be put into a one lane in that part, so that they could be possibly like a huge bottleneck of? And the second question is, where you have it where the bikes are to go behind the pedestrians, is there going to be some sort of block between the pedestrians and the bikes? Because bikes have a tendency of going faster than pedestrians. And when they're going at a certain speed and it's legal for them to go, just ringing a bell will not make a pedestrian be able to go out of the way fast enough. So I want to make sure that both the bikes and the pedestrians are in safe proximity and not hurt at the same time.
Right. Good points, both of them. So I think you were talking about Third Avenue lane, the one lane. Is that correct?
They both look like they're going down to one lane.
So East 128th Street is existing one lane, and we're proposing one lane. There would be no change to that west of the intersection. The off ramp is currently 2 lanes, and we're keeping 2 lanes. East of the intersection, it is currently 2 lanes with a bicycle facility, and that is what we're keeping. So everything stays the same in all of those legs of this graphic. The change.
I'm sorry, could I interject there? I'm talking about when the off ramp and 128th Street, just a little bit closer to there's a small section. It's between almost the curvature of Harlem River Park And PS 138 is where there's 3 or 4 dots that you showed on your proposed plan. It's a small section, but it looks like it's 1 lane.
It's there in the original plan, 128th goes straight, right? Where he has the mouse, you see how it goes straight? So
Right,
what
and
they're
I'm
going
talking
to do
about
is they're
right
going
there,
to
that looks like
extend it.
it's reduced.
They're going to extend it. They're going to force 128th to go into the 2 lanes from the off ramp and then funnel it forward.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, so I'll talk to that. So the idea is that East 128th Street traffic, which is currently 1 lane and will stay 1 lane, will now have a signalized ability. They'll have to stop at a signal if it's a red light. Then they'll wait for the light to change, and 3rd Avenue traffic will have to now stop at a signal. And 128th Street will come into what is now kind of, it's where the bridge transitions to the street level, and they'll have that space, they'll have the signal timing to be able to navigate that space. There are 2 lanes in that space, so it is able, traffic can flare out into extra queuing capacity. And
I
that is,
apologize. I forgot that the traffic lights were gonna be there now. I apologize. Because
so
right now, as it is, without the traffic light, it's a little crazy.
agreed, it is a little crazy. And we're really confident that this will make it a lot more orderly. There'll be a little bit of queuing now on the off ramp. It'll go back onto the bridge. But if you've been there at the wrong time, it already does that. So it's not really doing much difference to it. And then just since you brought it up, I do want to talk about 3rd Avenue traffic northbound. The 3rd Avenue, much further south than here, has a lot of traffic. There's 5 lanes and there's all this traffic going north, but it all peters out as it comes to here, because I think you know, once you get to here, all you can do is turn right and then turn right and go back south again. So the volume of traffic on 3rd Avenue is incredibly low, and you don't need more than 1 lane to navigate this last block. So that's what the proposal reflects. It reflects the sort of the existing conditions of traffic volumes, but also just logic and, you know, who's driving around on our streets. What was your second question? I remember it. It was good, but I forgot what it was.
The bikes and pedestrians.
Right.
In the same space.
Right.
Seems dangerous.
So what I didn't talk about, because it's a small detail, but we are proposing. So the bicyclist who comes across 128th Street will wait for the light, and then they'll cross with the light. They'll turn right onto, you can barely see it, but it is reflected on this graphic in orange. That is supposed to be some, what we call quick curb. It's like a vertical delineation. So that way the bicyclists can go around it. The orange over here is to deflect traffic, to make sure they're not driving in the bike lane and hitting any bicyclists. And once they do that, there'll be a bicycle ramp. And then this is a curb extension into the top of 3rd Avenue on 128th Street. And there'll be a bicycle ramp so the bicyclists can come up. And now normally, I think I am a bicyclist. When I want to go straight to where my cursor is, I would naturally just go in a straight line. What we're proposing in this project is something to deflect the bicyclists to go behind the space where the pedestrians are queuing. Now, you are concerned with the speed of the bicyclists, and that's a fair concern. But what I think is going to happen is anybody who is actually navigating this space has to do a sharp right turn, and then they have to go up a ramp onto a sidewalk. They don't have a lot of time to pick up speed. So I don't foresee higher speed bicyclists going through here. Maybe somebody who's got one of those engines or something like that, they're probably illegal anyway. But that's why I'm not as concerned. I'm a pedestrian planner. My priority is to make sure that things are safe for pedestrians, and I feel confident in this design, especially because of the deflection that is definitely not shown on this drawing.
I'm just also concerned with the e-bikes. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, and
I
I mean,
they go at 30 miles an hour.
Right. I just, as they come around this tight corner, we're not going to permit them to go straight into this space. Presumably, they will either stay in the street until they can get to the soon-to-be parking protected bike lane that doesn't exist today, or they'll have to go around this corner, and that'll slow them down enough that I think it'll be fairly safe.
My last question, I apologize for asking so many questions. is there a plan B if this does not work, for putting up some sort of a barrier to say bikes have to go this way and not be near pedestrians?
Well, the DOT is constantly trying to come up with a new toolkit to address that. You know, we have this problem where you have a bicycle facility that's off the street like this, and then you have a bus stop, and you're trying to navigate bicyclists around the waiting bus riders. And, you know, by the time this is not going to be completed until 2028, by then we may have new tools. And we're always, you know, if the board finds that this is a problem, you should definitely reach out to DOT, and we will definitely look into it and continue to try and find design solutions to this seemingly never-ending problem. But you know, you have a good concern, and just, you know, let us know if you see something. We'll obviously be monitoring it, but you're there more than we are.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your responses.
Thank you, Michelle. We have a question by Dawn Sanders and then Wanda Hopkins.
Thank you, Jose. So I apologize that I might have missed a little bit of the presentation, but I believe this is the second time that you're back. Oh, sorry, this is,
I
we
believe
have
this
a
is the
lot
first
of,
time.
say that again, Jose?
I believe this is their first time.
Oh, okay, I thought we spoke about
design-
this
The design
pedestrian
will
bridge.
the design will be finished by 2025. So they're still, I'm really happy DOT team came to us early in the process.
Okay, so can you just go back to the part where you said the bikes are allowed to share where the pedestrians are? I was trying to locate that on that last slide. Is it still
Right.
there? Can you explain that again, how you, because we don't have any enforcement for e-bikes. And if you do the due diligence and you sit next to the bike lanes, I mean, I don't know about, I guess Third Avenue could be completely different, or Second Avenue. But in First Avenue, if you sit there long enough, you're gonna see all e-bikes. So I'm just curious about this plan to have the bikes, have e-bikes share space with pedestrians.
E-bikes are permitted in the bicycle facilities that the city builds. So that's the official state stance. Until those sort of laws and regulations are amended, the e-bikes are permitted where bicycles are permitted.
Right, but you said they were going to be where pedestrians are at. And I think
Right,
maybe
so-
I'm repeating and I didn't understand what Michelle, the
No, it's-
answer that she received, but right now e-bikes are permitted in apartments to start fires, on sidewalks, in bike lanes, on anywhere they want to be, they go, right?
Right, so
The idea that now they can go where the pedestrians go, I just wanted to understand that a little bit more for the record.
right, no problem. So it's not like I'm saying that the e-bikes or any bicycle is permitted to go on all the sidewalks in this projects. It's just in very specific spots where you see on the top right of the screen, there's this little, it's a small circle with a bicycle, and then there's an arrow. Though we put those on sidewalks or in pedestrian spaces where in the unusual instance where we are saying bicyclists should be permitted to go here, it's a shared space and they're supposed to navigate with the pedestrians. Pedestrians are supposed to navigate, bicycles are supposed to navigate that space where everybody's coming together. It's only for two little spots. It's just for behind the neck down that we're proposing, the curb extension that we're proposing at the top of 128th and 3rd. So that way a bicyclist can make it across that intersection, while from my perspective, this is giving priority to the pedestrian. The pedestrian has the best spot. They're going to stand at the ramp near traffic, and then they're going to go when the light lets them. The bicycles will be behind them. So I don't see that this will be a concern. Obviously, a pedestrian who's crossing that space has to look for a bicyclist, and bicyclist who's using that space is supposed to look for pedestrians. The other location is right where my cursor is, if you can see it, and it's basically an eastbound bicyclist who wants to go southbound on 3rd Avenue will be able to cross 128th Street at the signal and then use the sidewalk. And that is a much larger space. Both of these spaces are actually quite large. Right now, the space today isn't very large, but there's a lot of fencing that'll come down. I think that container is already gone. That was in the opening photo. But the idea being that there's plenty of space for bicyclists and pedestrians to intermingle if needed. I also, I don't have concerns about the volume of bicycles here. It is sort of at the end of the network. So it's going to be just the ones using sort of the park, or, I don't know where they're coming from on 128th Street, but if they go east, they can only go 1 block and then they got to go south again like everybody else. So it's these concerns that you're bringing up are valid from a citywide perspective, but at this location, it's really not going to be a big deal.
Okay. I'm satisfied with that for now.
Thanks.
Thank you, Don. Wanda? Wanda, if you could unmute, I know you're calling in. You had a question?
Can you hear
She
me?
muted herself again. Oh, there you are.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, my concern is there's a school there. And there seems to be a lot of questions about the bikes and the pedestrians. So I'm a little concerned because there's a school. And I'm hoping that they'll put a crossing guard there while you guys are doing all this work. Has that been arranged?
Yeah, no, I can respond to that. So a crossing guard is not a part of the DOT jurisdiction. That comes with, I think, the police department, school department of education.
Okay.
But that said, we did talk to the schools with this proposal. We asked them where their loading is, where they line up, how they interface with the streets, how they interface with the parks. And frankly, their answers were most of the time they use either 128th Street further west of here, or mostly 127th Street further west of here. We asked them about 3rd Avenue because I knew that there's going to be a lot of extra sidewalk if needed. And they were kind of like, we don't use that. So I know what you're thinking about, entry and dismissal, or the start of the day and the end of the day for the students. And if a crossing guard is needed, I think it shouldn't be a problem to reach out to the DOE or the PD. But I also think that a lot of what we've designed will actually really help those students. If you're a student coming across 128th Street heading west or leaving and going east, that crossing is so much better than it is now. It's so much better. So I don't, it's going to help the students.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Let's see, do we have any more questions for Dan? I have some questions, but I'd like the committee to go through the questions. Okay, looks like it's my turn. Dan, as you know, this park, it's important to the community, but it also has significant challenges. The challenges are with lighting, a homelessness population exists there. There's a very strong prostitution situation that happens there. And not just at night, I mean, in the daytime, you can see quite a lot of graphic things. So obviously helping to improve it is important, but I do have significant concerns about the amount of traffic that is currently there and the traffic that will be caused by these changes will be, I mean, astronomical. As it is, it's almost, if you drive, anyone that drives into Manhattan drives through that bridge. The majority of the people do not go to Lexington. They come this way. There is, if you're going to Harlem River Drive North, you have to go this way and take it a little further after the turn. So it is concerning. I understand that the bridge is an issue, but it is concerning. I mean, just will be as we continue to have these dialogues, because I am happy that DOT has been able to come to us so early in the process for our input. But the traffic there is horrendous. I mean, it's even not just in the mornings, it could be the middle of the day. There is a huge divider currently there that stops a lot of slowdowns. So now with a traffic signal there, I mean, I'm not sure what that would look like. I was actually hoping that DOT would do something more drastic and turn 3rd Avenue into two-way street from 128th to 127 to 128, because there's almost no, a lot of people, what they do is they drive up 3rd Avenue and they cut into 128th. Could you, of the map?
Which one?
Anyone to the left or right? This one doesn't really help. Maybe go more to the right, like as the new improvements, the one that show side by side.
This one?
This will work. So this, you see, a lot of people, what they do is, there's so much traffic, is that they will drive against traffic from 128th to 127th. And it definitely alleviates, because most of the traffic is that little turn, because it isn't just the traffic that comes off of this bridge. Everyone that gets off of the Harlem River Drive going south and the exit also meets at that park, Crackers Whack Park. So everyone just bottlenecks there. The traffic is substantial. I mean, I know that we're still in the process, but I was hoping that they would at least consider, because we've had these conversations before, and I have seen it several parts of the city where they do have these situations, and they'll do a 1 block, 2-way street just to help alleviate this kind of transit.
Right. So I would like to address that. So the first thing is that we did, our deputy commissioner is a former director of the group that handles bus lanes and tries to prioritize buses. And the first thing he asked us to do when we started looking at this was see if we could figure out a way to route see this purple line, this is representing the BX15. Yep. First thing he asked us was, because of what you're talking about, he said, can you figure out a way, is it possible to figure out a way to bring that bus down 3rd Avenue so it can turn right onto 125th Street and it can skip the congestion that you're talking about? So the first thing we did was we played with that, and we tried and we tried and we tried, and it failed in a lot of ways. It failed in buses, it failed, from alleviating buses. It also removed bus stops, so we didn't think that would be good. It actually caused traffic congestion elsewhere. It didn't help pedestrians in any way. So it was sort of like we could do this one thing, but then it doesn't help anybody else. So we decided that was not the best proposal. And we did take a look at the congestion you're talking about, and we're aware of what I'm going to go to the right side. We're aware of what people are doing on 3rd Avenue, but the problem is if they're not going to Lexington. So 127th Street is 2-way away at this location. Both blocks go. What's that?
It's the left goes. It is 2-way, but it's if you go up 3rd Avenue and you make a right on 127th, it is a 1-way street making a right.
Yeah, so I misspoke when I said 2-way. It is a double away. So both blocks go away from 3rd Avenue.
Correct.
And what that means is that anybody who's sneaking down 3rd Avenue, doing something illegal, which I think is wrong and they should not be doing. I think that it is dangerous for the pedestrians, for the schools that are there. But they're doing it because there's so much extra space So part of this proposal is to discourage that behavior, that illegal behavior. But basically what I was trying to get at is somebody who does come down here, all they can do is go to the right. Sorry, they can turn left, which would be eastbound on this drawing, and they can go to Second Avenue, which goes southbound. So they're all going to the same place. What we're proposing with the signals is that the problem isn't this intersection. If there's a congestion problem, it's Second Avenue. And that is a larger scope for a different unit that is, the real problem is that there's too many people driving, right? Get off the streets if you really want to get rid of traffic. But this proposal should not delay traffic any more than it is today. And it's not about alleviating the traffic, like the citywide traffic congestion challenges. That is a problem for Second Avenue. If you can uncork Second Avenue, then this intersection would uncork as well. It's really about Second Avenue at, like you said, the off ramp and south of there.
No, that's fair, but our committee is also focused on traffic. We're not just here. I know the city is taking a different approach on seeing vehicular traffic as a negative aspect, but a lot of our constituencies drive and have vehicles. So we have to consider transit as a big part of whatever we do here. It would be difficult for me to believe that these changes would not cause significant more traffic. The reason that 127th Street people do that, they actually, when they drive down, they never make the right going westbound. They always make the left. The reason being because there's almost no one on that street, and there is a traffic light on 127th and 2nd. And basically, if you do that wild against traffic and you hit it, it is much easier for you to reach Second Avenue and start your way down. Because
So
of just the amount of vehicles that are coming in every direction. We have everyone coming from the Bronx. We have everyone coming off of Harlem River Drive. They're coming from Jersey and all these other places. So there is a huge congestion on 128th and 2nd. It's not just the congestion that happens on 2nd as you go down, but that particular little space that we're talking about is a big problem in terms of vehicular traffic. And like I said, we do have significant concerns. We can't just always look at the improvement of one without thinking about the improvements of the other. That's why I was asking if there is, and I'm happy to hear that you guys have considered something like that, but for a bus, you were considering it, right? It would have been probably a bus lane and just for buses. But if something, we're still in the phase of design, which is why we're having these conversations. If something like this could be considered where people could come down 3rd and just go to 127 heading towards 2nd, it would significantly alleviate a lot of traffic. And we do, like I said, we do have to consider the transit that goes through our neighborhood. We have a huge asthma population. We have the number 1 asthma population in our neighborhood, and we want to keep all these variables within control because obviously people are continuing to drive. It's not going to stop. A lot of our constituents and neighbors here drive. So we need to have all these things into consideration, and hopefully DOT is willing to work with us in whatever, or at least consider it, is what we're looking for.
Yeah, like I said, we already did consider it. We did look at making that 1 block 2-way. I said we started with the bus because I thought it was grander, but we did consider that as a possibility. To do that, you're going to lose the parking, you're going to lose probably the bicycle facility and a whole host of other, I think, the key to making crossing to the park, from the school to the park, the key to making that as safe as possible is keeping those crosswalks as small as possible, considering the volume of traffic coming off of that off ramp. I think that is a huge part of being a pedestrian and crossing safely. So by permitting that, we really lose a lot of the safety benefits for everybody else. And that's why we did analyze it and we did choose to go in a different direction. Additionally, allowing for more capacity on 127th that you're describing you're basically saying that the DOT is supporting these illegal behaviors and, you know, the cheaters, for lack of a better term, who are driving into the city. And I can't.
That is not at all what I'm saying, Dan. Please, you know better. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's behavior there and people are doing it because it is significantly more efficient. And if it is significantly more efficient, then I would imagine it is DOT's responsibility to consider it, because DOT isn't here just for pedestrians. It's also here for transit, even though as of late, DOT is focusing just on pedestrians. But it's our position that you have to consider both aspects. You funnel everyone into just one crosswalk and make them cross at just one particular place instead of two. You could also do that, right? There's a lot of ways that we can do this. So I don't think that if you're going to extend it and you only extend the northwest corner and have all the pedestrians cross there with a light there, you may not need the northeast corner. So I think there's still a lot of space for DOT to consider, because it's not that we're promoting the cheaters, not at all, but people are doing these behaviors out of efficiency. And if you actually stand there, which I would hope that we can do the same way we did it on 117th, we can go there in early morning and see all the traffic, and you can see how people are doing what they're doing. You'll see just how empty 127th Street is at that time. You have a green light there because on 127th and 2nd, you will constantly have the traffic signal change, but there's no one on 127th, hardly. You also have to consider that the buses are coming that way. There is a sanitation right next to King's Academy on the right. There's a sanitation, that's where we have our new sanitation depot. And they enter and they exit through 128th and 127th. So, it's just, we have to push to make sure that it's not just the pedestrians that are having advantages, but also people that are driving. I don't want to monopolize all the time, but I know that Dawn had another question. Dawn?
I'm just
And
going to
then
build on,
Xavier?
I'm just going to build on what you said, because, I was around, I don't know if it was 15 years ago when we first talked about bike lanes, and there was this pretend idea that we were going to look at both people who drive and people who, because honestly, in a disadvantaged area, it really should be people's choice what mode of transportation works best for them. And so the idea that, like, we were pushed the idea that, okay, asthma is high, so all you people with asthma should come out and get on a bike, right? And we just kind of had to eat that. And the whole car-free Manhattan thing that's happening now, it's just, I find that to be offensive. During the pandemic, I found out things like, I was 9 times more likely to die of COVID than one of my white colleagues of the same economic status, everything else the same. And I started to understand how Community Board 11, how people were expected to live and how they were expected to change their preferences and the way they the way they got places. They were expected to change all that based on able-bodied and wealthier gentrifiers telling them what needs to happen. So, just to back up, I don't know if this so much affects me, but I have to speak, like Jose said, I have to speak for people. We have people who are living in their cars, okay? Like, this whole thing that the car is evil and we got to get rid of all the cars, so we're going to make it just as dangerous as possible. I find that really troubling. And I guess that's coming from, working with transportation planners. It's just incredibly offensive to me that this idea that, like, on 8th Avenue, we're going to make sure that people cannot drive so that they will be forced to sell their car or give up their car or what. That's, to me, very abusive transportation planning. So I'm only putting that on the record and kind of, going, I guess, more extreme than what Jose said, because even when I applied to be on the planning board, the questions are, do you have a car? What do you think about no parking? That's really offensive that, you know, people who are able-bodied and well-off and can live wherever they want and in whatever neighborhood they want to come and tell us you ought to be on a bike or on the train if you want to go anywhere with your huge family. Like, I don't understand, and I guess I'm putting this back on the record because I don't know where I stand in terms of being renewed on the community board, because I said what I had to say in my application. Yes, I do have a car. I move a lot of people around to their appointments and other places that they can't go on a bus. And yes, I do have an issue with a 20-story building being built with not one parking spot underneath it or for any reason, because that's obviously there to make life livable only for people who are wealthy. Because they're saying, get rid of your car, you either have to go to a ride share or you have to take a cab. So it's basically saying only the poor have no transportation choices. And I know this is unpopular to say this, but you know, after 15 years of seeing this progress, where it just kind of disenfranchise people who don't have a voice or people who don't have, you know, the finances, it's troubling. So again, I don't know if you can answer that, but I do think that, like Jose, just planning around making life miserable for people and forcing them through having accidents and other things to stop driving, it's just very elitist to me, and it's very discouraging. So that's all. And thanks for Jose for letting me vent.
Thank you, Dawn.
Might be one of my last times venting. Who knows? I might not make it back on the board.
We'll see. We have our chair, Xavier Santiago, and then Sage.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you, DOT, for being here. I appreciate you being in this space as we try to solve problems together collectively. I would say that, and how Jose very eloquently pushed back and talking about how do we holistically design our transportation for all means, whether that is pedestrian, cyclist, borders, cars. I think one of the things that are most challenging about this particular area is that we are dealing with the ramifications of what Robert Moses designed several generations ago, and that is a reality. However, the appropriateness of this dialogue is that DOT and other agencies are to lean into the community board's response. We are boots on the ground. We're the ones in the field observing things. And as Jose said, you should come observe. Like him and others, I have sat there at various hours to observe what has already been cited during this meeting. And I implore not just a one-off, not just a peak study, because again, there are multiple people here on our community board who come from various walks of life from this community, those with terminal degrees in statistics, medicine, et cetera, and so on. And I think it's important to have some reliance upon our feedback, and especially those that are dealing with all modes of transportation. And given that we have one of the highest rates of asthma on the planet, also one of the highest concentrations of public housing when you draw a circle around the South Bronx, East Harlem, Central Harlem, and Inwood, Washington Heights, the highest concentration on the planet as well. And these are marginalized, disenfranchised populations. So I think what we look at holistically is how do we work better together to create a healthy environment that is not just for a handful of select individuals. We do have a lot of families in this community that do rely on transportation that is not bipedal. My family, we have, 2 kids, 3 dogs. I can't go to the vet when I came, without taking transportation. They're large breed dogs. That's just the way it is. But when my wife had our kids, when we'd have to go to a pediatrician, regrettably, it was across town. We had to take a vehicle. Public transportation was not an option. So I think and we also have a lot of individuals that have mobility issues. So I think when we look at this, I think what the feedback is that although the focus as of late with DOT has been about pedestrian focused, I think it's about how do we be holistically focused. And I implore DOT to look at it in that respect and how it will impact this community, because when you divert in one manner, there is a knock-on effect that occurs throughout the rest of the district. So I would implore you, and I'd be pleased if there's enough of a runway, no pun intended, to join everyone, and we observe at various pockets of time to see how we can work better together with creating a healthier community that is not centrally focused on one form of transportation. So thank you, Jose. I appreciate it. It's a very good meeting, very productive for all the feedback. And I appreciate everyone leaning in and implore all of us to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. Sage?
Yeah, so thank you to Xavier and Don. I completely agree with everything Xavier just said. And I agree with Don that I think we could do a much better job, and a lot of work has to be done in terms of how we transition and maybe emphasize certain modes of transportation that were not emphasized in the past. I just want my perspective to be heard for the record, that not everybody who doesn't have a car is in a privileged position. I personally don't have a car because I can't afford a car. So I rely on public transportation to get around. And it would be a shame if I was hit by a car because there are so many cars in New York City. So I am personally in favor of less cars, more different kinds of transportation, especially public transportation, because I think it's safer and better for everybody. I do, however, understand that some people have limitations that prevent them from using public transportation in many ways. But I think this is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate us working towards less cars. Yeah.
Sage? Looks to be the last of our questions. So Daniel, I'm hoping that we can continue our dialogue. We definitely feel that we continue to focus on public safety and make sure that things are streamlined, that come with innovation and things that just are common sense, not just focused on agendas, things of that perspective. And while I have you here, I actually wanted to ask you where we were with 117th Street and the barriers that we were promised. If you had any update, I know you were there with us on that cold morning, and I appreciate that. But I do wanted to know, because there's still a concern of ours. There's still vehicles parking there, and at this point, I've gotten tired of sending Rafael constant pictures of the sort, and I know he told us that we were somewhere in the process, but we would prefer to be more along in the process, or at least to know what we're expecting or when to expect these things.
Right. So I don't have answers that you are hoping I would have for that. I have information though. Essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find something that meets your concerns and our concerns, like meets in the middle. Your concerns are that we want to stop people from driving in the space, and we totally agree with that. Our concerns are that the tool that we talked about, that was the granite block. We took a look at what our granite blocks look like. We took a look at what the space looks like, and our concern basically became that the granite block was going to be too bulky for the space. We learned that by doing the project and staring at it and going and then measuring how big most of our granite blocks are. And we were very concerned with the lack of space that was left over. So that's where we are. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find something that meets in between, right? In between those two things. Unfortunately, the agency doesn't have the magical tool that we could put down there. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find something. We're trying to pilot a number of different tools. The thing is that anytime we try to do something that we don't just have in stock, it becomes challenging and time consuming to do things like contracts or procurements or other kind of governmental words that are just a lot. So that's where we stand. That's why you haven't heard from us, because we are in the process of doing that. We are brainstorming things. We are talking to vendors. We are talking to things like our budget code is allowed to do up to $20,000 a year in a micro purchase, but somebody already spent that money. So we have to wait until the next fiscal year starts. Little things like that. So we're working on it. I promise you we're working on it, but I don't have any information for you. I'm giving you generalizations because frankly, that's the only thing that is like able.
Yeah,
to-
last time we spoke, I forgot your counterpart. She was also present. And she
Carissa.
told us about some barriers that were kind of more innovative that you were just starting to use in different places. And hopefully that's what we would be looking at there.
Right.
But I'll definitely keep following up because unfortunately, it's just a constant issue. More and more, particularly in the afternoon, there are constantly cars parked there, and it defeats the entire purpose of everything we did.
Jose,
Because then
I
if the
cannot
granite
agree
block
with you.
is wide and it impedes some pedestrians, but a car just parked there impedes everything. So then there was, at that point, it's kind of useless to have had it. But I'm happy that you guys are still working on it, and we will continue to do our part and bother you.
I promise you, we are on the same page. It's on the same side, on the same page on this one. We hate it as much as you do. Just there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that's just not worth. We did the thing we were talking about was called the better barriers, and we were waiting for. The ironic thing is, the city did a pilot for all those barriers. We bought 6 different kinds. We put them out throughout the city, and then we waited for snow, and we wanted to see what would happen when the snow plows ran over them. And then it didn't snow. So we were kind of like, well, now what do we do? So we're still working on it. And a lot of those better barriers that were being piloted, we were hoping to use some of them, but because of the lack of winter, that sort of was thrown out. That was no longer an option to us. Maybe we wait another winter. I don't know. We don't want to wait that long, right? So we're trying a lot of things.
All right, sounds good, Daniel. Michelle, you had a question?
Very well, Dan. This is something that I've been sharing with CB11's personnel, Jose and Angel. So hopefully we can get this thing done in the very near future. Is that right, Daniel?
Like I said, we're working on it. I don't have a timeline because I don't know when micro lending is allowed again, or micro purchasing is allowed again. I mean, or when procurement can move forward. Like, it's a lot of just bureaucracy.
I will keep everybody updated as we go along.
And being that I was just given the floor as well, I just wanted to add, is it possible that we could be part of one of those pilots? Because you said there were pilots that were around the city to wait for snow. That of course did not happen. However, if we can be one of those pilot programs in the future, just to test out what would actually work, it would really enhance or give us good faith that everything is moving along.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. So there's different pilots, different units, different things, different pilots. So what I was referring to was bicycle lane protections. So this location doesn't have a bicycle lane. So this location that we're talking about would not be one of those pilots. That said, our unit, that is not the bicycle unit, is trying to do our own pilot for this very specific issue that occurs more than one place in the city, but we were 100% going to use the 117th Street location as one of the pilot locations if we can get our own pilot up and running.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michelle. So Dan, I'll be reaching out to you and Rafael. I'd definitely like to set up a walkthrough in this area for this particular project. We're catching it very early so we can really know. I would like for everyone to see, and I know this committee is also interested in this, as well as the community board and whole, really the community as a whole, because this will definitely change a lot of what's happening. I can see the congestion on the bridge backing up further and further. So it'll also affect the Bronx to a certain extent. I mean, we understand that there are different alternatives to transportation, but for now, we are
Just-
where we are. We try to simplify things as best as possible. So I'll be reaching out, and I really appreciate you being here, as well as Rafael bringing this to us so early in the process, where we can have a dialogue and not just ask for a letter of support, because this is going to be installed 2 months later. So I really appreciate that. Truly do. And I know that the rest of the community and the community board does as well. So we'll definitely be in touch. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to move forward. We have one more agenda in the new business. It's kind of new business and old business at the same time. We've been discussing having a conference for a few years now. And we want to move forward in this process for this year. Myself and Michelle, I'm very fortunate to have a great vice chair as Michelle working with me. So we wanted to discuss our first annual public safety conference. And basically this is going to be a mixture of public safety as well as economics. We were thinking and talking about joining with the economic committee, economic and I'm forgetting, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Development.
Economic development. Michelle sits on that committee, so she should know. Basically, it would be talking about public safety agenda, conference outline and purpose moving forward. We would have the precincts present. We would have business connections. We would have step-by-step moving forward, programs that are helping the community, such as ACEs, concrete safaris, basketball, mayor representative jobs, get the electeds involved, and have a very robust conference. And I think this is something that the community definitely would benefit from. Michelle, would you like to add any more details and words?
I would like what I envision is something that would benefit our community, where we can have that conversation, like we have the conversation with the community board, but to open it wider to those individuals, our constituents that don't really come to the community board. And it would be on a common ground, not near any NYCHA boundary levels where certain individuals feel like they're being impeded on their territory, different gang members. And so it would be on a neutral ground, and it would be sort of where we have people say, this is what is available, and then to have the little roundtable discussions afterwards where people can say, this is where a street lamp is needed. This is where I feel that my business needs more help. And just that one-on-one conversation where the community is speaking with the elected officials, is speaking with people that they feel will listen, that can make a change. And then to end it with different organizations that are actually doing things to help people that are at risk with gun violence. I think it was Courtney who spoke about the art of healing, the new representative with Danny, and as well as the gun buyback, and how are those programs going, and what are they going to be, what other things that they are going to be doing within the future, and that would also help. I see that Dawn put here the Hunter School or social work. Jose had also mentioned another space that would be available that could possibly give it to us, and this would be in October. Does that paint a good picture, Jose?
Sounds like Picasso right there. So do we have any questions from the committee? This is something that we're going to be working on moving forward. So it'll be constantly on our agenda. We'll have more structure for you for next meeting. I believe next meeting in June will be our last meeting before summer recess, but it'll still be something that we continue to work on in the summer to make sure that it is prepared. We were looking for late September, October, but still things are kind of in the development phase. Dawn?
Two quick things. I'm really excited about this. When you start looking at dates, let me know, because I already know that I have some statewide events that I'm going to be responsible for in October, but I would love to help out. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's long overdue, and I think it would be a great thing for us to do. So thank you, Michelle. And secondly, I just want to make sure I was marked present today. I was direct messaging, or I was messaging Khalid, and I just want to make sure. I was late, but I am present.
That's marked in the record. Don't worry about it, Don.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Okay, I'm done.
I'm sorry, same with me because I was late, but I hope
Judith, I don't see Judith. I can't see her, so she's not present.
Judith, I see you.
It's refreshing. It's actually refreshing to see Judith because usually she's dialing in, but I'm happy she's learned to use her tablet or computer.
I've been using the tablet.
All right. But do we have any other questions regarding what we're trying to accomplish? I think this is something important for the information, considering that youth violence is still rampant in our neighborhood, that as the summer is kicking in and the weather is getting warmer, we all know what happens as we get along. Things change, people get more aggressive. So we definitely need to make sure that everyone is informed and look for steps to move forward. I think having these programs there present for parents or even the kids themselves is important, so they can see that there is a way out, there is a way to move forward and away from this kind of lifestyle. I have a Cindy and Dawn. Is that an old hand or?
New hand, but I'm gonna
Okay.
wait
So
for
then we have
Cindy.
Cindy first, then Dawn, then Michelle.
Thank you so much, Jose. Well, I actually part of I didn't get a chance to raise my hand and during the announcements and stuff. I wanted to share a little bit about the announcements that were made by the governor and the mayor during the signing of the budget, as it would be relevant to the efforts of a public safety conference. There's a lot of money, 347 million, going to proactive gun violence prevention initiatives, youth employment, outreach, and they're going to be working with qualified SNUG recipients, not only in providing services, but also in workforce development. So as the committee is reviewing who should take part, and please consider the recipients of the funding from the upcoming budget. Let me know when it's an appropriate time for me to give further updates on that announcement event. But as far as the public safety conference, I feel it would be a great asset to collaborate with those organizations. I'm going to be sending out a better breakdown. I already sent it out to you, Jose, like the outline of what was said, but I'll have further details, and hopefully it'll assist in the conference.
Thank you, Cindy. We appreciate that. Then we have Dawn with a new question, and then Michelle.
I just wanted to also add that Hunter School of Social Work, when we did the youth summit there, that was many years ago, but the number one concern of the youth was dying young, basically being killed, which was sad because in the past, I think Angel Palermo did the research for us. In the past, that was not the concern of young people, right? Young people were more concerned about social things and things like that they should be concerned about and not dying, right? So that's a real public health issue. But the point is that when we did do the youth summit at Hunter, we worked with a few groups that actually knew what crews were going to be at the event and were able to, you know, walk people away in different directions. And so I'm just putting it out there that we did think very carefully about that when we were looking at Hunter School of Social Work. You can approach from various different NYCHA developments without kind of crossing into anybody's turf. So not that that makes people feel safer, but it seemed to work for us. And if I can be helpful at all, I know Officer Gibbons used to know kind of like, you know, if we can think about that carefully. So, and I'm happy to help. And thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Dawn. Actually, it's funny enough, we did you know, that just shows how long me and you have been on this community board. Because when I was talking with Michelle, it definitely was a point I brought up, because we've had this discussion where, you know, obviously due to all the turf battles, like where we have it, I mean, Union Settlement was brought up, but that's right across from Washington, and then other people won't come. And so, you know, definitely a neutral location like Hunter College is absolutely necessary. So thank you for stating that. We have Michelle.
I'm so glad that we think alike when it comes to safety, because that was a concern of mine, and making sure that the safety awareness conference was safe for the people coming to the conference. And Dawn, I would truly appreciate your help in making sure that the crews that have turf issues, which all are kept in a safe proximity from each other so that nothing can break out during that time. And I was also thinking that, Osendi, to have jobs. I'm not sure exactly what the organization that you were talking about. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear properly at one point. If you can put that information in the chat or email me, I truly appreciate it, because we want to make this a well-rounded conference. So yes, to talk about the issues, but to also figure out ways of moving forward in our community, because it's all about moving forward and hope and forward thinking and jobs and different things to do after school, as in the concrete safaris and the different programs that we already have within our community that are so helpful, as well as to find out ways to bring in funds into our community to help those programs and possibly bring enthusiasm to people, to others that might have an idea to make even better programs. So I truly appreciate everyone's suggestions, and we can all work together to make a fantastic conference.
So, well, Cindy, is that an old hand or a new hand?
It's old, but I do have some thing else to add. There were only 2 organizations present during the announcement. Save for Harlem was present, and I have to look up the name of the other organization that was present during the announcement, but they're not the only recipients specifically from this budget. The NYPD is receiving additional funding for hiring efforts, as is the state police. $70 million is going to be dissipated or shared with the city as a whole for after offensive support for after gun violence issues. So I'm going to compile the list from the recipients, the SNUG recipients, the Department of Youth and Community Development recipients of funding, as well as other additional grants that have been made available specifically for East Harlem. So we'll be able to know exactly who is receiving funding and the services that they're providing. So when you are actively doing outreach or collaborative work with these organizations, even if they have not presented here in East Harlem, it will be already documented that they have received funding. So we'll be able to hold them accountable for the quality of their work. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate all of your. And on the congratulations. All right. Oh, Courtney, you said you were leaving us, but you found this so interesting you stayed with us the whole time.
I did, and thank you for recognizing me. Just want to go back to the public safety conference. I think that's a phenomenal idea, and the DA's office would certainly look forward to participating in that. Can you give me the date again?
We are still developing the date.
Okay.
We are looking for early fall. And we will definitely be in this discussion with the DA's office. So you will definitely be hearing from us. Most likely we're looking for early October. But it is something that we'll be constantly working on from here and throughout the summer to make sure that we're well prepared for the date.
Got it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Charlie.
Yeah, I just have one question regarding the gun buyback. It's always held in Harlem. We should have one in East Harlem because a lot of the crime and a lot of the guns come from this neighborhood as well. So when you think about the district attorney's office to identify someone, maybe identify an organization in East Harlem that could do the buyback guns.
Absolutely, we will make sure that that's a possibility the next time this comes around. But in the meantime, please feel free to let folks from East Harlem know that they can come over and bring their guns over to Memorial Battle on the 10th. You can bring them from anywhere. So yes, absolutely.
We're happy to hear that you're open to that, Courtney. Thank you for that. Looks like that is all we have for tonight. I thank you all for the time you take. We did not beat our record for shortest meeting, and we only had very few on our agenda, but it was very important. As you can see, we're now at 8:08. And we're going to do our roll call and adjourn.
Okay, 1 second, members. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch. Carlos, oh yeah, excuse, forgot. Carlos Diaz.
Present.
Judith Ferraro.
Present.
Thank you. Osundi Garcia.
Present.
Wanda Hopkins.
Present.
Marissa Mack is absent. Sage Mason.
Present.
Thank you. Roberto Perez, absent. Dawn Sanders. I got you.
Present.
Michelle Wilkes-Sire Clement.
Also present.
Thank you. That's it, Chair.
All right. Thank you so much. You all have a good night.
Good night,
Again,
everyone.
we are adjourning. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.